So today we're going to be talking about your journey. So this podcast is an opportunity for us at UNDP Nigeria to celebrate people like you who are young, who are making a change, who are making a difference in the lives of people. So please tell me how your journey started. I know when we had a conversation a few days back, you mentioned that you had applied so many times to be a volunteer with the United Nations. So tell me about your story.
Well, mine is, I'm sure it's not so different from most of the other people out there. But I think what made it for me was perseverance and a learning point. So first of all, before applying to get into the volunteering program, I was applying for other UN positions. I didn't know what they were. I just kept applying NOC, NOV. I was out of the system, so I didn't know what it was. I just kept moving. And then working here now, I realized that I wouldn't say wasting my time, but I was taking the wrong route to come in. So I started, after that, I had to go to read up on the UN program and how to get in, and I figured out what was what. And then I saw the volunteering program, and I thought it was like the best option, especially for young people. So I took advantage of it. The thing with the UNV program, you don't have to submit CVs all the time.
Okay.
You just go create your profile on the platform, and then you submit the profile for every job opportunity that comes. So you don't have to constantly change something.
Okay, so you have your profile already uploaded, then you just go back to the platform to indicate interest for a particular role.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think something that you just mentioned, which is really key, is the fact that you researched on how to get into the system. I admire your resilience, even though you were not doing it the right way at that point in time. But then I think there's a lesson to be learned. Keep trying. You just never know. And I believe strongly in putting your CV out there.
Yeah, sure.
So one thing I want to ask you is, for someone who is interested in joining as a UNV, United Nations volunteer, what advice do you have? What are the first 2 steps you think they should take?
First step is you have to visit the platform. We have a platform where you register. It's called the Unified Volunteer Platform, UVP. So you go there, register, sign up, and just fill in all the spaces, all the boxes. That's the first. The second thing, which I think is even the most important, is that you cannot have a CV or a profile that is all over the place.
Okay.
You have to focus on an area, right? So if you're a comms person, you have to write it as a comms person. So you can't have procurement and comms and wash and all of that. It makes your profile looks like you're desperate. And then they want people to grow within the system, people that can add value. So if you've not found yourself, why should they hire you? So it is those are the first 2 steps. But I'm going to add a third one. So when you create your profile, one mistake we usually make, I made it too, is just keep submitting that profile. It says, let's say you're a procurement person, and you see a procurement opening, and you just keep submitting without actually reading the DOA. There could be a twist or a tweak in the DOA. Maybe it's procurement for a particular program. Now, if you have an experience in that program before, you then have an advantage over other people with generic procurement CVs. So I think that's just the best thing for anyone trying to get into that.
Always tweaking your profile to meet the requirements
exactly.
of the job posting. How are you using your platform to be an agent of change, to help advance the sustainable development goals?
So that's a perfect question, because you see the ENV program is deeply rooted in the SDG 17, that's Partnership for the Goals. Now, the idea behind that is that for the 2030 agenda to be achieved, there has to be interagency partnership.
Okay.
Right? Now, there is no better placed agency than the UNV program to make sure that that happens. This is because what we do is we try to bring in volunteers into every UN agencies.
Okay.
So we're not, even though we're being administered by the UNDP, we're not just serving the UNDP, right? We recruit volunteers for WHO, for UNICEF, UNDSS, and we have volunteers in almost all of these agencies. So now you have volunteers working in several projects, right? UNICEF, WHO, UNDP, different projects, and all of these are streamlined under the partnership, the SDG 17. And so we also try to promote volunteerism, right? Not just UN volunteerism as a whole. So these are some of the things we do. And just recently, we hosted a Twitter space where I spoke about the best ways to get into the program, and how to apply the benefits of being a volunteer. We just spoke about volunteerism, and we had about 8,000 plus impressions, and then we had more followers on social media, and so we keep doing these things to
reach more people who can also advance the sustainable development goals, which is extremely brilliant. So my question is, where did your passion for the SDGs begin from?
I actually didn't start by wanting to be at the UN, but I have this passion for wanting to bring satisfaction to to people, leave people out of maybe bad situations in general. So first of all, I was raised in a certain way. How do you define success, right? Define it by how many lives I bless or how many lives I touch positively. And so I want to do something good for a community, for my streets, just something. And so from there, I worked at an NGO, one of the local NGOs, and we had a thematic area around education. We used to go around schools to talk to school students, young people. And I was mostly at the forefront of it because, it was exciting for me. So I spoke to students at school. I saw them change, immediately. Some of them took some time. And it was nice, but I wanted to achieve it on a larger scale, right? So I wanted to make more impact. And the UNDP is just the name that rings. You want to, change something on a big scale, you just think UNDP, right? So I read about the UNDP development and peace and development, and this is a perfect fit for me, and then before I started going into NOC applications and stuff. So, but yeah, it started from outside, and I got into the UNDP because I still believe that this is the best place to achieve that kind of impact. So to young people trying to get into the UNV or UNDP, the UNV is not the only way, but I feel like it's one of the best ways for someone who is on the outside, especially when you don't have the UN experience, right? It's always good to start from somewhere, and the UN volunteer program is the best, right? Especially as it's also administered by the UNDP, so you have that same experience, that same guidance, right? So if you can, and I encourage you to volunteer elsewhere. For free, of course. Now these days it's like, I don't want to do that for free, I need to be paid. I get it, it's not easy, but if you can, just try to apply yourself in places, local NGOs, small places, just volunteer, have the experience of what it means to do good, what it means to touch lives, what it means to have that community, society impact. And so when you come into, and then another thing, it gives you experience, right? So on your CV, they're seeing that you've done some work. And then so when you come into the UNDP, of course it's not going to be easy, but you have the experience, so it's just going to be like that for you.
I definitely agree with you. Volunteer, start small, because you just never know the lives you'll be impacting. Thank you for sharing that. Very insightful. So as a young person making a change at his own level, how does that experience feel like? It's
exciting, right? When you look at it, it's really fulfilling. As a young person working with the UNDP at this level, and then having the impact you have with the guidance of, of course, the older people who have been here with better experience or more experience than you. It just, I don't know, it completes you, like this is what you want to achieve. And when you look at it, it just makes you want to do more, right? So being here at this level, I'm bringing in creative ideas. This is an era that is infusing into another one, from the older era to this new one. And then, everyone needs someone who can create the balance between two eras, or, something like that. So creative thinking, creative solutions, all of that come into play. And then the environment at the UNDP helps you or supports your thinking process to help you come up with these creative solutions that, will finally have an impact around society.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that, with youth, and not just the future, we are being now.
Yeah.
Because not only are we bringing a fresher perspective, we have what it takes to demand change, to make the change we are hoping for, and to also bring sustainable development. We're infusing our fresh perspective, we're infusing our creativity, which is what you've also mentioned.
Yeah.
And I like how you mentioned mentorship. Working in UNDP, you do get that mentorship. And I think regardless of where you work, with the UN or with an NGO or where else, being able to get that mentorship from someone who is better experienced, who has been in the system much longer, who is on your career path, is really helpful. So I think that's my advice if I was the one sitting in your chair.
It totally makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming to our podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's it's good to be here. It's just great to talk about these things so that people watching could, maybe there's someone trying to say, oh, I'm not applying anymore, I've had too many. I think I applied over 10 times. So just keep doing it, correct a few things here and there, research, do what you have to do. And, it's exciting to talk about these things. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you. And one key theme that I'm taking away is resilience.
Yeah.
Even if it means applying for NOAs, NOVs, NOCs, UNVs, apply. It's good to get your CV out there. So stay resilient, keep doing what you do, and be that agent of change.
Yep, I agree. All right. You're welcome.